Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm Anand Chakavalu, and we've got longtime fools Jason Moser and Emily Flippen giving a 1 to 10 rating to the e-commerce site that's just as dominant in South Korea as Amazon is in the US. It's Coupang, ticker symbol CPNG. We'll talk about the strength of Coupang's business first, including factors like industry and competition. A 10 is invincible, a 1 is hopeless. Jason, both of you have 8s.
Yes. Well, as you said, Coupang is an e-commerce business for the market in South Korea. They deliver everything like groceries, electronics, and whatnot. They offer entertainment offerings as well. So think of it as kind of like a Mercado Libre of South Korea, I guess. You look at roughly 22.4 million households total in South Korea. And Coupang registered 19.7 million active customers. So they've captured a vast majority of the market there in South Korea, which I think is really encouraging. And again, looking at the business model, it rhymes a lot with your Amazons and Mercado Libres of the world. Given the market dominance, I give it an 8 there. Dominant in the market for sure. I guess the only question I have is really in regard to how much it can grow from there.
I think an 8 is totally fair here. In terms of their growth, that's a big question mark. But in terms of competition, there is nobody else that is competing with Coupang right now, especially in South Korea. They take the place of not just Amazon, like Jason mentioned, but also things like Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, among a host of others. They even acquired Farfetch out of bankruptcy for a really reasonable price. So they're in fashion as well. They are the one-stop shop for South Korea.
Yeah, when you're in such a small geographic country, the infrastructure you can build and the optionality on that is pretty immense. For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett, a 1 is Homer Simpson. Emily's at a 9. Jason, you're not much further behind at an 8.
Yeah, so the company garners a Moneyball super score of 62, though it's actually weaker on scores regarding leadership, which I found kind of interesting. CEO Bum-Suk Kim is the founder of the company and owns over 8.5% of the shares outstanding, which I think is very encouraging. The company was founded in 2010 and IPO'd in 2021. We obviously like founder leaders here at The Fool, and they've done a good job of growing the top line since the IPO. So I think it's very reasonable to give leadership here an 8.
Yeah, I'm a bit more positive at a 9. I wasn't aware it ranked so low in the leadership score for the Super Bowl or Moneyball. So it's something to dig into. But actually, leadership is one of the first things that drew me to Coupang. Their founder-led management team, like you just mentioned, with high rates of insider ownership. But I loved the way that CEO Bum-Suk Kim talked about the business as well as how they provide value to shareholders. The North Star for this management team is free cash flow per share to reward back to shareholders. And my favorite thing about this leadership team is they have had missteps in the past, expansion into Japan being one of them. And this is a really humble management team that can say, hey, we have a vision, we're looking, we're executing, but if it's not working to our expectations, we'll say it was a mistake and we'll change course. And I think this is a company that is incredibly humble in its ability to do that.
It's kind of a win both ways. You like a management team that will go out and try to bring its stuff to another country, but you also like them to know when they've lost. Let's talk about financials. 10 is a fortress. A 1 is yikes. Emily and Jason, you're both at 7s.
Yeah, well, I think you look at the way the business has grown. They've grown the top line 18% annually over the last 3 years, and just under $6 billion in cash on the balance sheet with long-term debt just under $1 billion. The question here in regard to financials, because this is still a young business, relatively speaking, as it continues to build out its capabilities. So the margin picture looks pretty rough, but it does generate some healthy free cash flow. We just saw news of a big share repurchase authorization, I think the tune of about $1 billion, which is kind of interesting. But we know also that CapEx is going to continue to eat up a good bit of free cash flow for the business in the near term. So I think a 7, it just speaks to, I think it's a little bit of a riskier proposition, but still I think a company in pretty good financial shape.
Yeah, I also give this company a 7. I love how they're continuing to invest in logistics for their e-commerce operation. And if you look at the margin for their core e-commerce operation, that continues to expand, which is wonderful for generating a lot of that cash flow, which they're reinvesting into their developing offerings, including expansion into Taiwan as one of their international opportunities. And that is like continuing to drain a little bit on the bottom line on an accounting basis. So that's why I give them a lower score. That combined with a really unusually high tax rate, they're going to have an effective tax rate to 50 to 55% this year. So something to certainly watch up. That's incredibly challenging as they expand internationally. But even with this international expansion, their high tax rate, they still generate oodles of free cash flow and GAAP profits.
Emily, let's move on to valuation. How well will Coupang stock do over the next 5 years, and how safe is it? 10's a sure thing, one's a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I give this company a 5 to 10% annualized return with a safety score of 7. And I say that because this business is strong, it's growing, but it's operating within a limited market. So a lot of their growth opportunities is going to find new ways to monetize their South Korean audience, which is already pretty highly saturated. I think they're a market beater on the high end of that range, but potentially more depending on how they expand into Taiwan and if that works out. Safety again takes a ding because there's no guarantee that their international expansion plans will be successful. They were not successful in Japan. Taiwan seems to be going better, but there's no guarantee there.
Yeah, the stock has had an okay year to date, but it's significantly down from its IPO. So I actually can see returns here of 10 to 15%, given the top line growth the company's recording and assuming these investments continue to pay off. And hey, maybe those share repurchases have an impact as well. But I give it a safety of a 7, and that's mostly just due to the riskier nature of the business. The dominance in the market, I think, is great, but this is also a company that's really focused on one singular market where it already really holds a dominant share.
Time for everyone's favorite topic. Emily, is there a company in Coupang space that you like better?
Well, grocery delivery is a big part of Coupang's business, so I have to mention Instacart here. I don't necessarily like them better, but I like them in conjunction together. I think it's safer, they're more profitable, and they have a very reasonable valuation.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can always go with an Amazon or Mercado Libre if you want. But honestly, I mean, South Korea is the 12th largest economy in the world by nominal GDP in 2025. I mean, in Asia, it holds the 4th largest economy position. So I think this is actually a pretty interesting opportunity for a meaningful economy. I think it holds a nice place in a diversified portfolio.
Thank you to both Jason and to Emily. They've given Coupang a pretty decent overall score of 7.4 out of 10. I continue to hold it happily in my portfolio. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Tyler Technologies. Till then, Fool on.